Hello everyone, Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. Welcome back. I hope that you are all well. This is where I talk about the books that I'm reading, and I like to read diverse books, and I highlight Canadian literature. If you are new, thanks so much for checking out my channel. Please hit subscribe and stick around. Today, I'm going to be talking about the Giller Prize. Specifically, what happened this year. There were a few surprises, and it wasn't really about the books. I will share my thoughts on the books and share 4 5-star shortlisted books that I've loved. So let's just get into it. So you may have noticed that I didn't do a winner prediction video this year, and it's taken me a while to do a reaction video now that the winner has been announced. And I think the 2 big reasons for this is that I was not really excited about any of the shortlisted books. And that makes it really tough to be excited about the prize. Second, after the live event, in which some things happened, I needed some time to think about it before I felt that I could do this video. So first, okay, let's talk about the books. I only finished 4.5 of the books before the winner was announced, and I didn't rate any of the 5 books 5 stars, which is rare. There's usually at least 1 book that I end up loving and I root for it, sometimes 2 or even 3, that I wouldn't mind winning, and that did not happen this year at all. And so the book that I didn't finish reading is Birnam by Eleanor Catton. This book is going okay. I'm just over halfway through. I'm not loving it, but I'm not hating it. There are some parts that have been very funny, which surprised me. I've laughed out loud a couple of times, but there is also this element of I just don't really care. I'm not caring about the characters, and I'm not caring about the story. And this could totally just be a me problem and not the book at all, and I know that, but it's just where I am right now. The next book that I would put at the lower end of the spectrum was Study for Obedience by Sarah Bernstein. This, as we know, was the winner of the Giller this year, and that's not surprising since this book was shortlisted for both the Booker and the Giller. It seems to be a favorite this year. It is not a favorite for me. I love the cover, and there are things that I did like about it. I love that the narrator is not named. I love that the setting is not specific. The writing is also beautiful. There are some really beautiful sentences and descriptions in this book. The book just wasn't for me. I didn't care for the ending, and although I know there is a lot of deeper meaning in the book about society and how certain people are treated, which is, even more relevant right now, I just found that I really had to work to get there, and I don't really mind doing that work if the story makes me care, and that's where, again, it just didn't grab me. So perhaps on a second read, I would get more out of the layers in the book and the nuances of the book, but I'm not sure that I care enough right now to do a reread anytime soon. But I definitely would read something else by this author to see if I enjoyed it, and then maybe rethink this one. So next for me would be the short story collection on the list called The Islands by Dionne Irving. I've talked about this collection before. The stories are mostly about Jamaican women, many of them immigrants, and different aspects of their lives. Now, with short story collections, it's rare that I love a collection because they tend to have stories that I might really like, and then some that I really don't. So with these ones, there are many that really won't stay with me. They were fine, but didn't have a huge impact for me. Again, I wouldn't mind reading a novel by this author to see if I like it more. The last 2 books were the ones that I was considering for my top book. Neither of them were 5 stars for me, but I enjoyed both of them, and in very different ways. The most surprising to me was The Double Life of Benson Yu by Kevin Chong. So this is not a book that I would have picked up if it hadn't been for the Giller. The main character is a graphic novelist, and this is almost like 2 stories in one. There's the real story, but there's also the story that is being told in the graphic novel that takes from reality, but makes the story so much more palpable. I loved the nostalgia of the 80s and how the culture is brought into the story. I loved how the real story was revealed, and I did enjoy the characters, like the neighbor and the grandmother. I thought this was an interesting approach to bring in themes of trauma and abuse. And if you know me, you will be shocked that I'm about to say this, but I wish there had been like a page or 2 of the graphic novel to show just a bit of it and give us a taste of it. Even though I'm not a big graphic novel reader, I think it would have been neat to have a visual of the graphics as the story progressed and was revealed. So for enjoyability, I think that this was actually my favorite. But the book that I chose as the winner and thought had a good chance to win was All the Color in the World by C.S. Richardson. I love this cover too. I read this book in one sitting. It is written in short little vignettes and gives snapshots into the life of Henry, who receives a gift of colored pencils, colored pencil crayons when he's like 8 years old. And this is the beginning of his discovery of art in his life. And the book follows his life as he becomes an adult, gets married, and it often makes connections to him as an artist and to art and artists throughout history and the importance of color. And I loved the grandmother in the story, and I just found it interesting to see what was chosen to include, if that makes sense. I thought that this had a real chance to win because of the way the story was told and in how art is such an important element and theme in the book. So the Giller Prize this year was hosted by Rick Mercer, who is a comedian, a Canadian TV personality, and an author. And the prize is broadcast live, and I thought that Rick Mercer was doing a better job than most. I sometimes find the hosts to either be cringy, like trying too hard, or not being funny at all. And sometimes things just kind of fall flat. It's been very embarrassing. But Rick was doing pretty well, and until about 15 to 20 minutes in, he was interrupted by people coming on stage and one person holding a sign upside down that said the Giller Prize supports genocide. And it was awkward because people didn't really know if this was planned, like if it was part of the show. And the fact that the sign was upside down kind of made you wonder. So the camera like quickly went to people in the audience, and the musicians started, playing music. People in the audience looked confused and then embarrassed. And they quickly, got the people protesting off the stage and out of the room, and the show carried on until they were announcing the winner. Now we all know that the winner was Sarah Bernstein, who wasn't at the event because she recently gave birth and was at home in the UK. So I don't think that she even knew that this was going on when she was giving her acceptance speech. But the show was interrupted again by the protesters. And now, at the time, I didn't know why exactly they were protesting. But it turns out that Scotiabank, who is the biggest backer of the Giller Prize, they invest in Elbit. And I did not know about all of this beforehand, but I will say 3 things. 1, I'm against people being killed. I'm against genocide. Anything to do with killing people. It's not my thing. Second, I hope that Scotiabank is taking time to reconsider their investments. And if they continue to support their current investment, then my hope is that the Giller will rethink their partnership. 3, I know that Scotiabank has brought the Giller to a new level, and I love that the Giller is supporting Canadian writers and Canadian books, and it has become a Canadian institution. It would be very sad to see it take a nosedive because of poor decisions, and although it might change the funding of the Giller, I hope that the Giller would make the right decision, even if it's not the easiest. Okay, so moving on. I thought that I would share 4 previous shortlisted books that I gave 5 stars to. And first up is a historical fiction novel by an author that I love, and it's The Stone Carvers by Jane Urquhart. I love this novel. It is about World War I. There's some Canadian history and characters and the carving of the Vimy Ridge statue. And I read this while visiting Vimy, and it made the monument come alive for me. It was so well done. Second on my list is a collection of short stories, and that is Lesser Known Monsters of the 21st Century by Kim Fu. I loved how creative these stories were. They really made me think. They packed a punch. I loved the writing, and it made me want to read more by Kim Fu, which I still need to do. The next 2 books are by the same author. In fact, it's an author that I had really hoped was going to at least make the long list this year. First, I have Fall on Your Knees by Anne-Marie MacDonald, which is a book that really moved me. It's a family drama, or family saga, I guess, and I felt that I was part of this family. It's such a good book. And then finally, Anne-Marie MacDonald is one of my favorite Canadian authors, so it's no surprise that I also gave The Way the Crow Flies 5 stars. This story is inspired by the real life story of Stephen Truscott, who was just 14 years old when he was convicted of raping and murdering his friend and schoolmate Lynn Harper. I've always been really intrigued by Stephen's story because he always maintained innocence. He, after 10 years in prison, he was released, and his conviction was finally overturned many decades later in 2007. And Anne-Marie MacDonald uses this case and tells a fictional story that I think is just as compelling. So these are all 5-star books for me that have been shortlisted for the Giller Prize in the past. Please let me know if you followed the Giller this year, if you read any of the books, were you happy with the winner? And what are your thoughts about the partnership between Scotiabank and the Giller? Do you have any previous Giller shortlisted books that you gave 5 stars to that you would recommend? I'd love to hear all about it. I look forward to chatting with you in the comments. As always, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.